Hi everyone, Kelly here, and today I wanted to do a dedicated review for Be Not Far From Me by Mindy McGinnis. And this was a new release that came out March 3rd of 2020. And of all the new releases that I have read so far in 2020, I think this is my favorite. So that's why I wanted to talk about it more in depth, because I think it was a really excellent book. It's also the first book I've ever read by Mindy McGinnis. I know she's a pretty popular author on BookTube, but I just never picked up anything that she had written so far because the themes hadn't really appealed to me, but this one sounded really interesting. And so I picked it up and I loved it. I ended up giving it 5 stars. So first, I just want to give a brief synopsis for this. This is a survival story. Our main character is a teenage girl who has gone out onto the Appalachian Trail with some friends. They're spending the night camping and drinking and just hanging out, partying, things like that. And then like that evening, she's had some alcohol and she happens upon her boyfriend out in the woods with another girl. And so because she's, her thinking is impaired through drinking and feeling upset about, seeing her boyfriend in this compromised position, she goes running off and separates from the group, wakes up the next day and realizes she doesn't know where she is. So the rest of this book is then her surviving out in the wilderness and trying to get back to civilization. And I just really enjoy this book. I love survival stories, and I really like survival stories where the main character is making smart decisions, because in so many of them, the reason that they're in a survival situation and the reason it keeps going for so long is because they keep making dumb decisions. And I don't like that. I had recently read one that was like that, where the main character just kept making stupid decision after stupid decision. And I'm like, no wonder you're out in the wilderness. But in this one, I felt like the reason she ended up in that situation seemed valid, because it's not like she was just making a dumb decision to leave the group. Like, she was impaired through drinking and had a really emotional reaction to the situation with her boyfriend. So it made more sense why she left the group. And then of course later, when she was sober, she realized that she had made a bad mistake and then just was trying to figure out how to get out of it. And so I think she's a really strong, smart main character that just made one mistake. And the way she survived and all that stuff, it was just really interesting to follow. I would say that if you are somebody that doesn't like heavy descriptions on like injury or pain, that this might not be the book for you, because she does get injured at one point pretty badly and it's very descriptive. So if you can't handle that kind of like hearing about a body part being injured quite heavily, you probably want to avoid this book. But I just really was interested the whole time. This is also not like high action. Like, even though it is a survival situation and she has like action moments where she's trying to like actively get out of a situation, a lot of this is like her alone in the woods. So there's a lot of inner thinking, because when you're in that situation where you think you might die, I'm sure it's pretty common to be thinking over your life decisions and how you got to this moment in your life and what you want to do with your future if you get back to civilization. And so there's a lot of internal monologue. Like, I did read some reviews where it said that our main character was really self-centered, and I just don't really think that's accurate. I think it's more that she's alone and all she has to do with her time is to think about what's going on in her life. And so that's what she's doing. Like, we're just hearing all of those thoughts that she's having. I really enjoyed that. I really liked hearing what was going on in her life and what she was looking forward to changing or doing when she got out of this situation. I thought that the descriptions that were in this book were amazing, and like how her like temperament and things changed the longer she was out in the woods, and just the things she had to do were well described. The writing in this was phenomenal. There was a part where we actually got to find out why it's titled this way, and that part like was really impactful for me. Like, I just loved that moment in the book. About the only thing I didn't like about this book is that there's this kind of like secondary plot going on that I don't want to tell you about it, because I think it kind of gives away a lot of what's going on in the book. But yeah, there's like a secondary plot of like another character that's in her past, and she is kind of like exploring that part of her past, and the coincidences that come up through that storyline annoyed me, because I just don't really like it when books and movies have really big coincidences that I'm like, in real life, that wouldn't happen. Like, Most likely a coincidence that big would not occur if this was a real survival situation. But other than that, I thought it was very realistic of her time out in the woods and like, you know, finding water, eating, all that kind of stuff, what she would need to do to survive on little items was amazing. Well done. I would highly recommend this. It's a very short book. It's only 230 pages. So if you got the ebook from the library, or I would highly suggest the audiobook. Even though I had this book from the library, I listened to it on audiobook because Hoopla had it, and I was like, well, it's free from my library, maybe I'll just listen to it because it's not that long. And the audiobook narrator is amazing. Her name is Brittany Presley, and I really liked the way she narrated the situations when it got like really hard, like the way her tone changed. I also liked how she did like the accents, because a lot of this takes place with people that are from the South. Like most of the characters in this are from Tennessee. So when there's actually dialogue, which doesn't happen that much, but in the beginning of the book, there's a lot of dialogue when she's with her friends, she used really good accents. I always want to applaud narrators that do an accent really well, and I thought the Southern accents were done really well. And then just like the way, when things got very dramatic and hard, I liked the way she did it as the audiobook narrator. So I would highly recommend the audiobook. But yes, for a new release, I would definitely go and pick this one up. I know a lot of authors are struggling right now with coronavirus, with new books coming out, and people can't get a hold of them, or you know, they can't do all the press and stuff they normally would. So I would definitely recommend this book and think you should give it a try. It was really good. And that's it for me. If you would like to talk about this book in more detail, let me know down in the comments. And if you have any suggestions for other survival stories with a smart main character, let me know, because I will always want to read more of those. See you next time. Bye.